And so take that one step further then and talk about Dow and what you're seeing from and who you're looking for, the profile of that STEM-educated individual, what it means as you start scouring for the country and the world for talent, and where you see the needs in us making those investments to make sure that you have the talent that you need.
Yeah, I think your mic may need some. Is my mic okay? Yeah. Okay. So they rigged it. They rigged it, Ari. Yes. So no. Look, the profile of a Dow worker is changing and evolving. I like to say we're a 117-year-old company, and I'm a user of Google, and I'm a user of these new technologies. I'm not allowed to use Twitter and Facebook for the obvious reasons. But Facebook's on version 1.0, Twitter's on version 1.0, Google's on version 1.50, Dow's on version 6.0. So come talk to me. Okay, if you get to be, sixth generation change. And the worker that comes to us that, and we're pretty typical. We've hired 9,000 20-somethings in the last 3 years, okay? And the value proposition I put to them is we solve humanity's challenges. We take the intersection of chemistry, biology, and physics, okay? And we can put you anywhere in that chain. You can be in the factory with technical skills operating that intersection, or you can be in the sales force, or you can be in the lab inventing the stuff that helps commercialize it. You can be in the finance ranks. We bring the intersection of people together, and we're not, believe it or not, and my CTO will probably kill me with this next statement, we're not necessarily GPA-oriented. We're leader-oriented. We want learners. We want people who are curious. The old Confucian saying, we were given 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, okay? People who are willing to listen and learn. People who are motivated. And our school's got to really recreate the environments to not only get intrigue and passion back into the learning, but practical examples. I'm all for internships at a younger age. Expose the 13 and 14-year-olds, maybe even younger, to the magic of some of the things that get done these days. And back to your NNMI, the National Institutes that the President is launching with, and I think it's a great idea. As we launch those, we need to make sure we grab the youth piece of that, not just the community colleges, but the local high schools, the local middle schools, and get them intrigued with the notion of, I'm curious, I'm a learner, I don't have to know everything because I can download everything I want right now, but I have to interpret and problem solve. And if you can put that value proposition in front of a young person, I bet you, they will come.
And that's really one of the important elements of that network of manufacturing institutes, is that it creates a platform in those communities for all of the relevant players to come together and create those opportunities. And we've seen that in Youngstown, Ohio, for example, where PhD candidates are getting involved, but community college residents are getting, students are getting involved, as well as the community as a whole. And I just want to underscore a sort of a trend line point, which is that in manufacturing, it is actually, it is the sector of the economy where the talent is aging out. And so it's critically important that we have young people coming into the fold, and as Andrew is articulating so eloquently, it's also an area where the opportunity is so raft and broad. Investing in our youth is about creating environments for people to succeed in their own professional context, but one of the things that has been written often about young people today is that they have multiple interests, will have multiple careers, are not just interested in having a job, but are interested in participating and making change. Dow has been involved in really profoundly interesting ways in public-private partnership, thinking about the environment, thinking about how to be a global citizen. And I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that from the perspective not only of what you've done at Dow, but also as young people think about how they can be impact players as they are career players in their jobs and their companies.
Yeah, and the millennials, and clearly, I have 3 of them, and my kids, they are of the ilk of not staying at the one company. I'm a dinosaur, 37 years, at the one place. And how do you build a career opportunity within the one enterprise, if you're big enough, that helps the millennial actually do what they want to do? And they're driven by social causes, they're driven by things planetary, and really trying to figure out the value proposition of joining a company that has massive resources at its disposal, and then giving them the flexibility and the agility to be problem solvers. And we actually at Dow, we tend to do this, we invent new words. We put a word out there called solutionist. join us and become a solutionist. And we actually advertised at the Olympics, one of our partnerships, to actually put the message out that this isn't your mother and father's chemical company anymore. This is your advanced technology science company. It's Dow. And just like IBM is no longer International Business Machines and 3M is not Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, Dow allows you to provide solutions for humanity. Now to do that and say it and actually come in and do it is another thing. And I've already mentioned all the 20-somethings we've hired. It's working. And the average age of our company, to your point on demographics, has gone down from 52 to 41 in the last 5 years. 29% of my workforce is under the age of 30. We're hiring them everywhere, and the value proposition is working. And what we've got to do is be agile so that we can provide them this type of opportunity and be flexible in terms of how we actually allow them to move around in the company. Campus-like environments work. I don't quite have rollerblades yet, but maybe one day. You know, the open cafeteria environments, the innovation labs, you know, mixing and mingling so you're not in cubicles, rebuilding. We've been putting lots of new workspaces in place, you know, not just everyone out there on the hoteling and through the connection on the internet, but also coming into the office, and then allowing them to participate at an early age to our external partnerships. And the breakthrough partnership we put together, it's been building for a while. Really, it started back in the early 90s with our Corporate Environment Advisory Council, where we brought in NGOs to really put the mirror up to us. We went through something at Dow called the 4Ds on environment and what was going on in terms of the EPA, and we're now into the 50. The initial D was defiance. You know, what does the EPA know when it was first formed? And they did things like fly over and take photos of our plants, and we sued them, and so that was defiance. Then we went through this phase called denial, okay? Well, we just, in Washington, forget it, we're just not going there, deny them, okay? And then we, through the 80s and into the 90s, we went into this, you know, debate. Okay, you have a point of view, we have a point of view, we disagree, let's debate it. And then we went into the fourth D for our 2005 sustainability goals, and we almost invented the triple bottom line at my predecessor's predecessor. We set these 10-year goals, and it was dialogue. But then we had made a mistake at that point, and we didn't realize, and we had to look back retrospectively. And a few years ago, when we went into this 50, which is do, enough generals, enough talk, enough panels, enough speakers. Get the troops motivated, get the millennials to work, get them prototyping, put them into solution sets. We put in place new programs like the Sustainability Corps, married off the Peace Corps. As we speak, I have 37 Dow employees, all 20-somethings, in Ghana, working on solving problems on the ground, urban water supply, urban farming, sustainable housing, affordable medicines. And we're funding that project for 6 months. And what is it doing for Dow? It's helping build our brand, okay? So that as we enter Africa and do it in the right way, we bring the best standard. But the millennials lead us in. The people that you said, you know, that I need to motivate and retain. The Nature Conservancy was the breakthrough partnership of a few years ago that actually put this holistic thought around the planet and said that if humanity doesn't work out how to actually keep its footprint where it is now and in fact reduce it, then now 9 billion people in 2050 is going to be catastrophic for all of us. If we don't put the tools in place to solve for that, then the disasters that we're all obviously very conscious about, like climate change, will be real. What Dow and the Nature Conservancy came up with, though, was practical. We're putting together ways, through prototyping at 3 sites in North and South America right now, how to value nature and work with mathematical models, advanced mathematical models, to make available to all of us on how to use them so that we can use nature instead of building grey infrastructure. Instead of grey infrastructure, how we build factories and all that, instead of green belts, separation, using nature to help us control all the things that we do inside of urban and industrial environments. Great success models already. At Dow, we avoided spending $40 million on a water treatment plant by building a wetlands next door and discharging the water into the wetlands safely and then creating a habitat for hunting and fishing, very important in Texas. And so, but instead of spending $40 million, we spent $1 million. We're reforesting as a way of controlling nitrous oxide emissions, bringing down greenhouse gas. We're taking in 10,000 cubic meters a year from one of our communities in the Netherlands, their wastewater. We're taking them into our facility, burning it and creating steam for our industrial process, saving 180,000 tons of carbon dioxide a year being emitted instead, as well as, of course, handling their water. These are practical do list items, and we have hundreds and hundreds of them. And then we've not stopped, and I'm going on and on, but I'm very passionate about this. The sustainability core plus the universities, we're seeding universities with sustainability fellows. I've used intersections more than once. Intersection of policy, science, environment, we have to teach it. So we're creating these graduate degrees all around the country, Berkeley, Michigan, Caltech, quite a few other places that are actually training people how to do this.
Well, it's fantastic. And the president, over the course of the summer, gave a speech about climate change and his goals on climate change and on energy. One of the things that he emphasized over and over again is the role that the private sector has to play in this, and Dow has been a real leader. I want to just close by engaging in the conversation about Washington, actually. We've been talking about public-private partnerships. We've been talking about real bright spots on the horizon of the economy, opportunities for young people as they think about their careers and where to invest, or as they may be investing in building their own companies, what markets or sectors they might consider. But as you well know, because we've been seeing a lot of you in Washington lately, there is quite a debate going on about the continual funding of the government and about making sure that the government pays for the obligations that it has already incurred. And I wonder if you could just comment a little bit, not so much on the theater of what's happening on the day-to-day here as we work to getting to a resolution, but on the economic implications of the impasse and what needs to be done. What message you would send to Washington and convey as you talk to these folks here?
Yeah, so Ari well knows, and I, as the CEO of a company that's impacted by government all around the world, I've already made the case for government, private sector cooperation, as we've talked about. And really, I may be in very treacherous ground as a CEO, but I'm not afraid of getting to this ground because people have to lead. And I think one of the problems we have in the world, and certainly this country, we are full of this issue, courageous leaders, balk when they get challenged on a principle. And you've got to stay with your principle. And what drives you on the principle is what determines the answer. And when you start breaking principles, you better do it consciously, because we all are designed to operate within certain rules and frameworks, and most of those rules and frameworks have come over literally thousands of years of evolution as a species and as a race. And as we evolve civil society and governance of that civil society, we care about those. And this country, I'm an Australian by birth, Greek by heritage, but I love this country because of its principles and because of the way it operates. And it literally sets a standard for the rest of the world. And at Dow, we take that standard and export it to the world, and we do very well with that. It's our values-based principles. And I think governance and government, and obviously you sit in the middle of this, Ari, as my observation is in the United States, we are starting to lose this notion that it's representative government, that we go to the left and to the right so easily today and forget what the people want, which is an answer that actually finds your path through a very complex topic and finds that path in a way that maybe not satisfies everyone, but in fact gets you most of what you need. Who gets 100? Perfection is a journey, not a destination. You have to keep iterating around it. And what I noticed of late, and certainly we're now entering that season again where the debt ceiling is being used as an instrument to get something, that breaks a principle. That breaks a principle, and we should never break a principle. We should get this whole thing behind closed doors and negotiate, get it out of the public domain. And I do think the president is right on sticking to his principles, or sticking to the US's principles, not his principles. He's our representative right now, leader of our country. It's very important that we don't break that principle because it scares people. People say, that's not the United States. The United States is evolving to something. We don't quite know what it is. I'm uncertain about the United States. I'm uncertain about a lot of emerging countries where they're trying to learn governance. I've never been worried about the United States. What are we doing here when we threaten default? So uncertainty with volatility spooks investors. And I think we're proverbially spooking investors again. And here's the economy ready to take off, starting to find its way, all the things we've talked about today in terms of employment. And yet we're having this very vocal debate about breaking a principle. And I, for one, am not afraid to say that we shouldn't be doing that.
Well, and we applaud you for doing that, and it's incredibly important that leaders like you and leaders like all of you raise your voices and remind all of us in Washington the importance of sticking to our principles and making sure that the basic obligations of government are met. So, Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.